Hello, everybody. Figured I would do some commentary over a 35 Stormwatch that I ran a decent bit ago as of now. I've been busy for the past week or so, so I haven't really been able to do much, but finally I figured I'd get around to posting something. So this was actually before the ult buffs that just recently came out. So this is a weaker version of Ardeos that you're seeing here. And you might also notice that I am using the Ice Staff weapon instead of the Chronoshift weapon. And that was just something that I was sort of experimenting with around this time, and I still am. I've actually really been liking the Ice Staff weapon. I use Amethyst Splinters as the capstone talent or trade or whatever, and it actually does a lot of damage because Ardeos crits a lot. You know, when you have Amethyst 6 and you have your legendary, you're just doing a lot of crits, and Amethyst Splinters effectively just adds 10% damage to all your crits, which is really strong. You can also run Amethyst Splinters on the Chronoshift weapon as well, instead of Visions of Grandeur, which also works. Visions of Grandeur did get a bit of a buff indirectly because Ardeos' ult got so much better. So now getting the extra ult charge is, that much better. But I've been finding that in higher level dungeons, there are certain packs that you really want to save your ult for anyway, and so spamming out a bunch of ults is maybe not necessarily going to be optimal. I would still definitely just recommend running Visions of Grandeur, like if you're just starting out. Like, I think it's super strong if you're in like Paragon or Champion or anything like that, especially with the ult bust, because you can just ult and delete a pack at that level, and yeah, it's pretty crazy. But I have been finding some success with the Ice Staff as well in these higher difficulty dungeons where these packs last a lot longer. You just get a lot of value from that permanent dot. And I guess, the reason that the weapon works in the first place is because the dot itself does not do a whole lot of damage, but when it crits, it has a chance to summon based on Pyrophibian Frenzy. So you can summon a bunch of frogs just all the time if you dot massive pack, like this one, for example. They're just permanently dotted, just spawning a ton of frogs. You can see, like, well, I just used frogs there, which is why there were so many, but there were an extra, like, 3 or 4 in there, probably. Yeah, so I guess those are kind of my thoughts about Ardeos in general. The ult changes are really great. Fortunately, not going to see them in this dungeon because it's before all that, but I have played a bit with the ult buffs, and it is insanely strong. The initial damage just absolutely deletes packs. So I have a feeling it might get nerfed. I'm not sure. Not sure exactly where the meta is going to end up, but it does feel pretty crazy currently. So it's getting more into the actual dungeon and the gameplay going on. Stormwatch is an interesting dungeon in that the trash is not that bad, or at least like the timer isn't that bad. The real wall in this one is the final boss, especially with 2 ranged, because those charged bolts, if you're on lower difficulties, you can just let those go through. Those don't matter. But on higher difficulties, like a 35 with Ultimatum, which makes them do more damage, you actually have to interrupt the charged bolts, because those can just straight up one-shot people. And when you have to interrupt every single charged bolt, along with Dread Arc, it makes things very difficult. Especially when you have 2 range, because range kicks have a longer cooldown than melee kicks. So in this case, you're getting a little sneak peek of it right here, but we sort of have a kick priority rotation, where the tank is the first priority because they have the lowest cooldown. I was the second priority, and then the Rhyme was the third priority. So that's how we did it. I think there might be other ways that you can like rotate it to get every kick, but I think at that point you might be relying on RNG of the charge bolts targeting the tank so that you can just skip interrupting them and get your interrupt cooldowns back. Yeah, this was a real pain. Just having to wait till the last second for every interrupt. If you mess one up, there's a good chance that somebody just dies. So, definitely a dungeon where you get a lot of value out of bringing at least one melee DPS. Makes it so much easier to manage those interrupts. Yeah, aside from that, like the trash, these pulls are not very hard. There are a few interrupts, you know, you got the Uga Flames and the Withers and all that. So those do need to be interrupted. In this pack, there's also the Storm Screamers that will do Ball Lightning. That needs to be interrupted, or it does a ton of damage. We actually didn't interrupt. I just said that, and then we missed interrupting 2 of them, so that was great. I wonder if I actually die here. I think our campfire's like pretty far away. And I think I sent my DR trinket to hopefully keep the tank alive. At this point, I'm just trying to run back to stall for time. Because, you know, everybody died. Tank actually does end up coming back. That's pretty fortunate, because I think we managed to salvage this pull, even though the healer dies again. Pack's pretty low. Looks like we're probably gonna manage it. Ardeos is not terrible at kiting, just because of the fact that he can blink around. So we do end up kind of cycling deaths here, but I think we managed to run back enough to where we end up keeping the pull alive and killing the mobs. One thing with the Icicles weapon is that if you die, the dot goes away, which is kind of lame, to be honest, but if you die, the dot goes away and you have to reapply it by sending the weapon again, so just something to keep in mind. Here we're just waiting for the patrol to come down a little bit. The Executioner walks pretty slowly, so I just kind of send my stuff without him. I think the Rhyme actually grabs aggro on the Executioner there, because of the weapon. So he walks over and cleaves us a little bit, but fortunately it's not enough to kill us or anything. One thing that I've noticed is I see so many Rhymes. Like, Rhyme for sure has to be the most popular DPS character. I see one in, like, almost every group that I join. Like, I'd say 90% of them. And one thing to keep in mind about Rhyme is that one of the reasons that she's so strong right now is because of her weapon, the Void Touch weapon. It scales off of a bunch of her, like, personal damage buffs. And so she'll tend to blow up one single mob in a pack, and that's where a lot of her damage will come. So just something to keep in mind. Ardeos is more of like an even cleaver, so they kind of actually match up pretty well. Ardeos does more like raw AoE damage, and Rhyme can funnel into one target. Yeah, so this is the boss again. You can see that I held my kick there on Dreadarch until right at the end, just to give everyone more time to get their kicks back up. And you see the tank kicks because his kick is up. This next kick will be the Rhyme because he's the only one that's up. So he's going to wait towards the end and then grab that. Tank should get this one. He probably didn't need to interrupt that one because it was on him, and the tank can obviously tank it, so we're going to grab this Dreadarch. We did get lucky here. The lightning went on the tank, which makes it really easy because the tank can just do it by themselves. Other than that, the only things to really keep in mind for this boss, besides staring intensely at the interrupt cooldowns and everything, is that he will occasionally summon ads, and you'll want to just save Apocalypse for those. Maybe save a Fireball charge, like I have one coming up here. If you are using the Ice Weapon, you could also save it for these guys as well. We actually messed up our kicks and let a Dreadarch go off. But I think we have a B-res, so we're actually able to get the healer back up. And I'm probably not playing super optimally. Like, I think I held a Fireball charge there for a while, but I was locked in on these kicks, because this boss is really difficult with double ranged. Yeah, I mean, we had a pretty scuffed pull earlier. Messed up the boss a little bit, but we were able to recover. And still had 3 minutes left on the timer. So, pretty forgiving dungeon. And I was also a little bit under-geared at this point. By now, I'm more geared. There's also the Ardeos buffs, so would probably go back and slam this again if I were to do it again. But, yeah. So, it's just a nice little key showcasing the Ice Staff. I do have a lot of haste and crit. Like, I have 50% haste and 30% crit or something like that, and I have Amethyst 6 and all that, so you kind of do need a lot of stats to get it going, but once you get to that point, I feel like it's actually pretty strong, and it's a decent option to compete with the Chronoshift weapon if you're just tired of that, so. Anyway. Yeah, it's a pretty clean Stormwatch, all things considered. And yeah, see you guys next time.